There comes a point in the life of every animation fan when, after searching all over for more mature, intense works, stumbling upon online lists or YouTube videos with titles like the most disturbing animated films, that they are introduced to the imagery and reputation of the two animated feature film adaptations of the works of British novelist Richard Adams, most famously or infamously the 1978 animated adaptation of Watership Down. Discussions of this film often, understandably, heavily focus on the more gruesome aspects of its narrative and presentation. Simply, it's the stuff that's bound to stick with you the most, especially if you happen to be one of the many kids who grew up with this in the UK on home media. Taking these scenes at face value, it's hard to imagine that it was intended to be seen by younger audiences, and some may assume it to have been some sort of error, but that's simply not the case. It received a rating of U in the United Kingdom, which is the equivalent of a G rating here in the States. The British Board of Film Classification, or BBFC, defended its decision by stating, "Animation removes the realistic, gory horror in the occasional scenes of violence and bloodshed." And we felt that while the film may move children emotionally during the film's duration, it could not seriously trouble them once the spell of the story is broken, and that a U certificate was therefore quite appropriate. Ignoring the condescending tone toward animation that I sense in that statement, I can see sort of where they were coming from, even if I don't entirely agree with it. The legacy of this film is that it's very intense, gory, violent, and disturbing. I'd say that it's fair to call it disturbing and intense at times, but I often feel that the reputation it has gained as the bloody rabbit movie has kind of overshadowed a lot of the more interesting elements that make up this infamous Richard Adams adaptation. And I'd like to think that's what the BBFC had in mind when they chose to give it its initial U classification, one that they amended in 2012 to PG, by the way. This movie asks you to engage with a lot more than just its brutality, while still highlighting said brutality as essential to understanding its themes. Those themes touching upon everything from religion, the randomness of nature, the unknown, and even totalitarianism. There's a lot more going on here than just the bloody violence, but if that's what you first came to it for, I don't think you'll be disappointed either, you sick weirdo. On the surface, Watership Down is the story of a group of rabbits led by Hazel out of their warren to find a new home. At first, the narrative functions as a series of sort of vignettes as the rabbits make their way toward the titular Watership Down, a real location in Hampshire. Each night fades to black, and each day they come across strange characters, beautiful landscape, and, of course, horrors beyond their comprehension. I think where this film truly gained its reputation is within its intentional contrast. At the beginning of each day after leaving the warren, these cute little bunnies have no clue whether they'll encounter friend, foe, man-made trap, natural predator, or militarized enemy rabbits, which is a phrase I never thought I'd write, yet here I am looking at it in my script right now, and we all just kind of have to deal with that. However, it's just as important to observe the beautiful countryside that they get to explore. The gorgeous backgrounds and musical score making you feel at ease, even after having seen some truly distressing imagery just one scene prior. Watership Down is as brutal as it is peaceful. I think what Adams and the director are trying to illustrate for their intentionally young audience is the true balance of nature. As hard as it may be to acknowledge, nature can be cruel, unforgiving, and even uncaring. There are laws set by things we have no control of and only speculate the origins of that govern how we all survive. Animals go by this same road that we humans do, and this film attempts to give us that perspective. Life can be beautiful, but it isn't always, and I think animation is the perfect medium by which to illustrate this idea to children because of the refuge that they often take within said medium to escape that difficult truth. This isn't to imply that animation before Watership Down didn't cover more mature topics, but there's a distinct difference between this film and its contemporaries at the time, and to explore that, I think we need to talk a little bit about anthropomorphism, or rather, Watership Down's lack of it. Yes, these animals do talk, and we can read how they're feeling through their body language and facial expressions. But there's a stark difference between how these animals are designed compared to how most animals are designed in children's media. They lack the more exaggerated facial features and never move in a way that feels, for lack of a better term, cartoony. That restraint shown by the animators helps the film feel much more grounded, even with some of the more fantastical elements present. There's an effect that these animals have on me as an adult that I think was even more impactful on children who grew up with it. When Hazel, Fiver, Bigwig, or any of our other protagonists are shown in pain, it reads as more disturbing because they look more like real rabbits. Rabbits that see the world in their own unique way, and by giving us the opportunity to explore the natural world through their perspective, Watership Down introduces what I believe to be its most fascinating ideas. While the middle part of the film focuses on the perilous journey to a new home, the beginning and the climax illustrate the greater concepts of this world. This story has its own mythos. It zooms in on wild animals and approaches their existence from a theistic angle. Adams created a religion and language for the rabbits, one that we get an origin for at the start of the film, where the god Frith grows frustrated with the rapid multiplication of the rabbit species and curses them to be hunted by predators, but also grants them the capability to outsmart and outrun said predators to survive. It can be inferred that this religion is how the rabbits justify their dangerous existence, and is a story handed down over generations to remind them of their lot in life. But as are the concepts of belief in our actual reality, there's a level of uncertainty to it that is personified in the character of Fiver, the younger brother of Hazel, who acts as a sort of prophet throughout the story. The reason that they leave their warren to begin with is because Fiver experiences a haunting vision of death should they remain, and while several characters doubt him, it's later revealed that he was 100% right, as not long after the group leaves, the warren is gassed in one of the most brutal scenes in the entire film. It's moments like the flashback to the destruction of the warren, Bigwig nearly dying in a snare, and the encounters with the Anthropomorphisms that give Watership Down its reputation, but it's where those scenes sit in context that I'd argue makes their brutality somewhat necessary to drive home the point that the film is trying to make. That point being that whether motivated by belief, instinct, survival, or independence, to get to that peaceful end, that promised land just over the horizon, there will be opposition, and you have to be prepared for it because that's life. Of all the shocking scenes in the film, I think the one that sticks out to me the most is actually the first one that occurs. The death of the doe Violet comes out of nowhere. It's swift, subtle, and treated as a simple fact of nature. It even happens right after a nice peaceful moment. That tonal shift being the perfect distillation of this entire story.
Violet's gone.
Even after getting to Watership Down, the peace that the rabbits have been searching for isn't without threat, and this threat isn't even from a natural predator, but from other rabbits. The Ephrafa Warren, led by Chief Woundwort, serves as a reminder that the greatest threats to existence will always be others just like you. People, or in this case rabbits, who band together as a regime to oppress and use those underneath them for their own gain. Woundwort promises prosperity and survival, but only to those he deems worthy. The rest are actually better off taking their chances in the wild world that always seems to want them dead. There are intentional parallels here, and while I may think that Watership Down isn't exactly the bloody, violent film that everyone says it is, it definitely deserves to be noted for the brutal concepts that it presents. The Plague Dogs, though? Yeah, that one is the bloody, violent film that everybody says it is. Seriously, I'm gonna reiterate the content warning from the beginning of the video here because the Plague Dogs not only goes straight for the jugular in ways that Watership Down didn't, but it also approaches things from a much more nihilistic place. Where Watership Down highlights brutality as an unavoidable fact of nature, The Plague Dogs takes things a step further and delves into outright cruelty. A cruelty that defies even the dog's understanding of the natural order. Where the rabbits had an elaborate belief system that they used to interpret the world around them, Ralph and Snitter have a much simpler outlook. If there is any kind of a god to them, it's man, and he giveth as well as taketh away, or in the case of Ralph, he wishes he would take away. Our protagonists are two dogs imprisoned in a research facility where they are subjected daily to cruel experimentation, being poked and prodded at with no real end in sight until by happenstance their cage is left open and they escape into the countryside. It is heavily implied that Ralph was bred into this lifestyle, as he recalls no life before the research facility and is unfamiliar with the concept of the kind of man or quote-unquote master that Snitter hopes to find on their journey. Before they escape, Ralph's existence is one of perpetual torment. He is tossed into a pool, forced to swim to the point of exhaustion until he drowns and the researchers revive him. The object of this experiment, it doesn't fucking matter because it is cruel and no animal should have to endure that kind of treatment. Of course, the researchers don't care. Humans have a much larger presence in this film compared to Watership Down, and while we don't really get a good look at any of their faces, their cold dialogue lets us know everything we need to. To them, these animals are merely test subjects to be used until they can no longer function and then discarded. This is all Ralph has ever known, but his vivisected friend Snitter, in another cruel twist of fate, has experienced domestic life before being sent to the facility, and it's his hope in returning to said life that keeps them both going. Snitter takes on a very similar role to that of Fiver, with the stark difference being that where the source of Fiver's visions are left ambiguous, the flashes of a peaceful life that Snitter experiences have a very real basis in reality. His brain has been tampered with by the researchers, causing him discomfort and disorientation, as well as reminding him of the accident that landed him in the facility in the first place. Both Fiver and Snitter bear the immense weight of their visions, but where Fiver is occasionally frightened or weakened, his instincts are often proven right, leading the rabbits away from danger. Snitter, on the other hand, is tormented by the memory of wandering into the street, just being a curious dog, causing his master to try and get him out of the road, only to be struck dead by an oncoming vehicle. Snitter is blamed for the accident, thrown into the facility, and yearns for the life that he once lived with his deceased master, eventually developing the false idea that he isn't worthy of the life he longs for. The horrific things that happen to Snitter are simply accidents, things completely and totally out of his control, yet the humans of the film use both him and Ralph as scapegoats. I couldn't help but feel this underlying desire to shift blame in the story, for man to point the finger at nature for simply taking its course, not accepting his own role in tampering with it. The two dogs interfere with the ecosystem of the land because they're forced to do what they must to survive. There's never any ill intent to these characters, no need for an evil animal stand-in character like Chief Woundwort to reflect the greed and ineptitude of the human species, because the human species being present in the story forces the audience to examine our treatment of the natural world, the way that we introduced harmful things into it only for it to blow up in our face when it reacts the only way it knows how. This is illustrated in the most horrific scene in the entire film, where a hunter calls Snitter over to him, the innocent dog, being excited to be again treated kindly by a potential master, has no idea about the gun that's been introduced into the scenario, and in another awful accident that further traumatizes Snitter, the hunter is gruesomely killed.
Come on, up we go.
Snitter reacts to this moment in utter despair, believing himself at fault and retreating further into his already fragmented mind, now no longer being able to differentiate reality from fantasy. And how do the humans react to the killing of the local sheep population and the accidental death of a hunter? Well, when the news gets out that these two dogs could possibly be carrying the bubonic plague, the military wages total war on them. While all of this is going on, the research facility is finally shut down, but only after it's already gotten entirely out of hand. This should have been stopped long ago, and now the price is being paid by more than who are actually responsible. Clearly, The Plague Dogs is the far gloomier of the two films, but I think both of them have an undeniable draw, as noted by the several animation fans who seek them out, or the myriad of video essays made about them. There is a strong pull toward the darker works of animation, but in pondering why that is, I think it ultimately comes down to what these cruel cartoons are saying in addition to what they're depicting. The same goes for disturbing films. You'll find that a lot of these are actually just cheap exploitation, blood, guts, and gore for the hell of it, the edge ironically being the point. That isn't the case in the best examples of disturbing media, in my opinion. Watership Down, in the face of all the hell it puts our cute little bunny rabbits through, ends in a sequence that I can only describe as beautifully serene. After everything is said and done, many years pass and Hazel is greeted by death, but not in the way that we've seen it throughout the story so far. He's told that he has done well, led his friends to safety, and has earned his happy ending, to run peacefully into the afterlife with a sense of accomplishment. The weight of that accomplishment would no doubt be nowhere near as impactful without having persevered through everything beforehand. It's in these final moments that the point is made crystal clear. The world isn't going to make things easy for you. Risks will have to be taken, loss will be faced, and hardships will have to be overcome, but the reward will be worth all of it. It's harder to find a silver lining in The Plague Dogs. Ironically, the ending embodies that struggle better than I could word it here. Our protagonists are chased all the way to the ocean, cornered with nowhere left to run, yet Snitter insists that they swim because he can see an island far out in the distance. Ralph is obviously terrified of the water, but eventually dives in after his friend to escape their pursuers. The film ends without a clear resolution. We don't know if they've made it or even if there is an island to begin with, because Snitter, the one who pointed it out, even starts to doubt if the island is real or not because of his previous hallucinations. Unexpectedly though, Ralph speaks up and says that suddenly he can see the island, he can spot it in the distance, and tells Snitter to keep going, that they will make it. While the credits roll, we are shown the island. Whether it's real or not is up to us, but regardless, I think it helps to tie this film with Watership Down through a more symbolic representation of perseverance. No matter what hand you're dealt, even if you're intended to drown, keep swimming anyway. Watership Down was eventually released on home media as part of the Criterion Collection, one that I don't have but want really badly, by the way. And as with all films in the collection, comes with an essay booklet, this one written by Gerard Jones. In the final paragraph of his essay, I think he hits the nail on the head as to why we often pursue disturbing, or as he points out, the frequently used term dark animation, books, films, art in general. And it's with his words that I want to leave this video with. That word dark is used a lot in movie talk, but usually to mean some combination of the self-consciously cynical and the manipulatively cruel. In the fantasy business, it's worn as a badge of tough-mindedness and sophistication, although usually with that adolescent look at me not being childlike pose. Few movies embrace the real dark the way this one does. The dark of night, of dreams, of sorrow and terror and peace. And of course, it's against that darkness that the light looks the brightest, which is why the bright moments of Watership Down can be so simple, so understated, and yet so transportive. It's why the ending, which I won't reveal but which you'll know long before the movie's over, is inevitable and right, is as joyous as it is poignant. Oh, thank you so much for watching this video. It's a big deal to finally cover Watership Down and the Plague Dogs. You know, when you talk about animation on YouTube, eventually you feel like you have to talk about those at some point. They're kind of tent poles of more mature animation that younger audiences may have grown up with. This video is brought to you by the patrons, my beautiful, beautiful patrons whose names you are seeing on screen right now, wherever I put them. I obviously have to shout out my amazing executive producer patrons, Lapis Lashley VA and Lizard Gang. If you want to help the channel more and give me greater support, I highly recommend that you join the Patreon. If you do, you can join our Discord server where you can talk with me and other people. You can get access to videos early, like the patrons got access to this video early. You'll get exclusive videos like reviews of more recent films that I've seen, rambles of thoughts that I have that don't exactly fit into a well-scripted video, and my exclusive series where me and my patrons recommend films to each other called Off the Shelf. There's a lot of great stuff there, and I highly recommend that you do that if you wish to support me, but even if you can't afford it, it doesn't matter. I'm just glad that you watched this video. That means a lot to me, and if you really enjoyed this video or some of the other videos that I've made, please consider subscribing so you can get updated on when these videos come out. I'm sorry this video took a minute, man. It's been like a month since my last one. Just been traveling and doing a bunch of other stuff in my personal life, but also getting ready for more videos, getting things set up better. I want to stream more. If you guys want to see me stream some games, specifically, I've been thinking about playing the Arkham games. Don't know why. Sometimes I feel like playing the Batman Arkham games. I might do that. One of the reasons I haven't streamed in a while is because my Wi-Fi sucked. I was dealing with really bad connection. Whenever I played The Force Unleashed a while back on the channel, it crashed a few times and we kind of lost the stream, but I have recently fixed that issue. I got a big old long extension cord and hooked right into my modem, and things are moving much faster now, so I think streaming will be a lot better. Let me know what you want to see me stream if you think you'd like to see me play the Arkham games, or we could just hang out, have a good time. Let me know if you'd be interested in that kind of stuff. I've already got another video coming out very soon. Don't worry, you won't have to wait as long as you did for this one. In the next video, I think I'm going to be ranking every DreamWorks animation film, all of the DreamWorks animated movies. I still have a few left to watch that I haven't seen yet or haven't seen since I was like 5 or 6 years old. It's been kind of a trip to go back and watch some of these films that I haven't seen since I was very, very little on VHS, and some of them hold up really well, some of them don't. We'll see how those videos come together. I put out a poll not too long ago on the community tab here on YouTube, and you guys decided that you liked tier lists as far as rankings go, so that'll be a tier listed ranking of all the DreamWorks films, and eventually I'm going to do Disney animation as well as Studio Ghibli and maybe some other more niche subgenre stuff that I'm interested in, but you'll have to wait and see those. The next video is coming, and then the next video essay after that. Just working on a lot of stuff. We've been working real hard here, and I cannot wait for you to see what I've got cooking for all of you. So to wrap all this up, again, thank you so much for watching. Once again, subscribe if you're interested. Keep the notifications turned on. I cannot wait to see you in the next video. As always, you guys are worth it. You're wonderful. Take care of yourselves. Be good to yourself. And I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.